Hello, this is Chris Rieger. First screen recording I've ever done, so trying to get through this as painlessly as possible, so bear with me. What I wanted to do today is show a very cool app I found over the summer. It's called C74, and if you have an iPhone, an iPad, and $4 to buy the app, it's an app that allows you to use your Wi-Fi network to connect your iPhone or iPad to MaxMSP. And it's really cool. Basically, you can take any objects, your most common objects found in Max, place them on your phone as a screen, and not only that, you can also take all the sensor data from the iPhone. So GPS, accelerometer, compass, even I think maybe a microphone signal, and you can take all this information and send it back to Max, and once it becomes a number there, well, you can do a number of very interesting creative things. So I thought for people in some human-computer interface class that this would be very interesting. So the first thing you want to do is download the free external. So you would click this link and it would download. I've downloaded multiple times. The manual is here. I highly suggest reading it. It has a lot of it clears up a lot of issues. And once you've downloaded, the first thing you need to do is you will notice there will be should be two folders in here, or two objects in here. There's the C74, and this is the actual object itself. And what you need to do at this point is you would drag this into Applications, and then go to Max, Cycling c74, and then it would be Objects, Max Externals. Yes, so you would drop it here in Max Externals. I'm going to stop because I've already have a copy. So once you download the object, the MXO, just put it through Max, then Cycling 74, then Max Externals. And now that object is now permanently saved in your library of objects. The other thing that was downloaded in addition was the Max Help. And you will find that that folder, which I have here, basically this kind of acts as a guide for the entire app and the object. And I'll consult that as we go. So the first thing to do is figure out, well, what kind of cool project can we do today? So, let's see. We'll make something up as we go. So the first thing you want to do is create an object that is C74. And one thing I've noticed in the few times I've worked with this is that sometimes you'll load a project once you've had the C74 object and all the connections are gone. So if that happens where it no longer has any sort of ports, inputs, or outputs, you might have to just recreate the object, or just copy and paste from here. That's usually very helpful. So one of the first things you'll want to do as far as testing it is to send it some sort of message. And there are a few particular messages to test right away, and one of them is that you can control things such as the flashlight on the phone or sending a vibrate. So for example, I can type the message vibrate and connect it to C74. So at that point, if I hit vibrate and I had the app going on my phone, the phone would vibrate. Once you send any message to the C74, it essentially is transmitted to the phone. Now, as far as sending it to the phone, what you'll want to do is purchase the app first in the App Store. Once you have your phone with the app, one of the peculiar things about this is you cannot have your cellular data on. In other words, you need to make sure that you turn, not only do you have Wi-Fi on, but you have cellular data off. That appears to be the only way that I've seen so far that it works. So from there, all you need to do is open the C74 app. If it's basically make sure you open the Max patch first and the app second. That is very important. If the connection is established correctly, there will be a loading screen on your phone followed by just a blank white screen. That is good. And at that point, you can test by clicking vibrate, and hopefully you can hear through the Mac speaker that there is, or the microphone, that you can hear the vibrate. Not sure how audible that is, but it is vibrating. So that means that you have a solid connection, which is great. The next thing you want to do is to create an object on the phone and then try to transmit it back to Macs. So again, this has over here the c74 helper has a lot of great documentation. So let's say we want to create a button and place a button on our phone so that we can, press our phone and something happens in Macs. So I look over here and I can see the message the way the syntax needed. Notice that you can use clear to erase anything that ends up on the screen. So let's say I want to create a button. So what you want to do is say that you want a button. You give it a name. So I'm going to give it B1, and then you give it the dimensions. I think this is X location, Y location, and diameter. I think so. And from there, you connect it to c74. Notice that they use a lot of send and receiving. That's if you want to keep your patch from getting very confusing. If you use a very big project, I recommend that. So when I do this and I click on my phone, and I'm afraid that I can't show you the phone because it's a screen recording, but there is a huge button now on my phone. But I can prove it to you by sending that data back into Macs. So at this point, this first output basically sends everything that's happening on the phone, every single thing. So you have to extract exactly what you want. So let's say I want that button information. So I hit route B1, create that object, and if I create a button on the output of that, you'll notice that without clicking, that there's a button. There's a bang occurring every time I press the button on my phone. So from there, now you can use your phone to basically trigger events, which is great. And you can create infinite numbers. If you wanted a second button, you could go button B2 and maybe shift it over a little bit. This button is rather large, so you would maybe shrink it a little bit. And yep, it is much smaller. So I would maybe shift this over, I don't know, 60, 90, 60, something like that. It'll take, trial and error, but eventually I now have 2 buttons on my phone. So you could route B2 and you would have the same thing. And create another button. And there we go. So 2 buttons, I can trigger whatever events I want. Great. And as you can see, if you look over here, you can create toggles on the phone, have numbers, floats, sliders, text edits, menus, a lot of cool stuff. Let's see if I can get a text, for example. So in this case, there's some additional, here I'm just going to copy and paste. Paste, come on. And take that information. Again, I do recommend sending and receiving when you make projects that involve a lot of sensors and a lot of objects. And hopefully this allows you to do some really cool and complex stuff. So I hit that. If I hit the clear, and notice that there was a clear message, so it did clear both buttons already. It's a text edit. So now I have a little menu that says click here to enter text, and I will try to type something. I'll type, how about hello world? That's hasn't been used before. And notice that it shows up there. Great. So as far as what can you do with this, well, we could do, I think this will work, where if we do ASCII to integer, ATOI, we should get a large list of numbers. So basically, I'll try texting something else again, and I'll type my name, and it appears it did not. So at that point, oh, ASCII value of characters typed. Well, we could maybe use that instead. Let's try that again. Type my last name. Huh. Well, I think I have this already somewhere else. I've tried using this before. So I'm going to open this up and see. Yeah, I found a lot of very cool things you can do with this. So I have, let's see, what did I do here? I took that information, I took the prepend set. So once I typed something, then, that's interesting. Let's see, bang reports. Oh, you have to have a bang to report the text as well. Okay, cool. So I'll minimize that, come back to this. Changed while typing. Ooh, item clicked on. So I think this is what I did. Create a button. Let's see if this works now. Move that over here. We'll type something up. There we go. Awesome. So just remember, if you want to use text, take this output and send a bang back to the beginning, and that will actually transfer it. So from there, all I need to do is simply unpack as much data as I want, and you would have to anticipate how many, how long you want your text. So if you wanted to tweet stuff, for example, you would have to add about 140 zeros. Let's not do that and just use a few. So if I did that, created a few integers, just for the sake of example, I think, I'm not sure why, maybe it's the A2I object, but usually in my experience, the first few letters, or the first few numbers from the ASCII code are always the same. So I'm guessing, I'm not sure if it's A2I, but we can take a look and see. So just going to create a random amount of numbers just to get started. And if we do that, and let's type something else. So let me type music, sure. So we got 116, 101, 120, 116, 32. Let me try something that's different. Let's try zoos. And interesting, okay, it looks like the first 5 are all the same. So I don't know why this is, but I would start with just the 5th connection. And from there, if we create a few, we'll do a few short words like it. Okay, we're getting a different code. If we type do, awesome. So basically at this point, your text, whatever text you send, and you can make this infinitely long, would essentially, you could use to control any kind of data. You could have a composition where people send texts and it changes the composition. Now I'm not sure yet how to do multiple channels of information. In other words, if you have multiple users submitting data. I believe might mention that somehow in connecting. I haven't really delved into this yet. I only have one phone. But it's something to look into. You could definitely make something very cool out of that. So again, if you have any questions, just let me know. Get a hold of me somehow. The other thing that you can do, not only can you send the sensor data, or I'm sorry, not only can you send objects to your phone, to your iPhone, and send them back into Macs, the other thing you can do is take sensor data. So if you go over here to attributes, yes, if you look at attributes, you can see all the different types of sensor data: GPS, accelerometer, gyro, compass, shake, proximity, and microphone. So let's pick one. So let's say I want to get compass information. So I type compass. They had an argument 1 that allows you to use a toggle. You could just type compass 1 and that would turn it on, or compass 0 to turn things off. We'll keep it consistent. We'll use the toggle. So if I do this, the compass is now being monitored, if you will. So at this point, now what we can do, there's also other thing to mention is that there's a small tab on the bottom right corner of your phone when you're using C74, and that allows you to see what sensors are being accessed at any given time and what channel you're on, just so you know. Another thing before I forget is that you may not want your phone to rotate based on what it's doing. So in this case, if I don't want it to shift based on how I'm holding it, I could just send a message rotate 0, and that will keep it fixed. And before I forget, there's also flashlight 1 if you wanted to. I'm not going to use it, but it would allow you to basically turn the flashlight on. Flashlight 0 would turn it off. So now that I'm sending compass information out, the other thing would be to get it back. So let's route compass. And then we'll get a message going to take that information in. And so now, by just moving my phone around, I'm not sure why there's 2 sets of data, but you can see that if you look at the very first number, and I'll unpack it, but it should only go, it goes from 0 to 360, I think starting at north. So I'm just going to unpack for this first number just to get one compass number. So if I do that, and let's use a float. So at that point, you can see it goes to 0, and all of a sudden goes back to 360. So yeah, there's a lot of very cool things you can do with this. You can use multiple sets of data, multiple sensors, and you could create something where there's GPS included. So you could have something where if you move around, the sensors change. Accelerometer, you could kind of use it as for musical gestures by how you move it. Gyro, shaking. I have not had any success with the microphone yet as far as getting any information from that. But as you can see, you can have very specific GPS information. I'm not sure how, from my experience, it kind of lagged, or like it's not accurate enough, or it wasn't easy enough to get it to notice changes by feet. If you wanted to do something where you're walking around campus or walking around a large area with the same Wi-Fi network, you could do that where if it changes, if you notice something like a change in 10 or 20 feet, you could maybe get changes in your composition based on that. You can also, I believe, send sound to your phone, which just gets into detail here. I've had some success with this, but basically you can't stream sound, from what I know. What you end up doing is you end up loading the sound into your phone, and then basically you ask it to play that sound. So it's hard to synthesize things, or I don't think it's possible to stream any audio to your phone, but what you can do is you can trigger events, you can trigger record. So things like doing a drum machine, or anything where you're just triggering samples, that could be done easily, and you could play that through your phone. There is some recording, haven't gotten into that. So I think that's enough to get through, that's about what I know as far as how to get through the C74 app. So again, it's you can find it at nr74.org/software/c74.html. It's a very cool app.